Hello everyone, this is Sea Connect Captain Rohit Sharma here, and today we have a very special guest. I think everybody will be pleased to have him on board over here. We are going to talk about Indian seafarers, and he stands at a very important position, being the head of FOSMA. So we have our special guest, Captain Navin Passey, with us, and we are going to talk to him about FOSMA and what FOSMA stands for Indian seafarers. Thank you. Captain Navin Passey, please, welcome to Sea Connect.
Thank you. Nice to have you here.
Thank you for your valuable time.
Thank you.
Actually, so everybody has heard so much about FOSMA, but we are looking at all seafarers. It's mostly done at a very high level. But for every seafarer to know about FOSMA, so could you elaborate what FOSMA stands for?
I have to go back into history
Right.
a little bit to explain the whole on FOSMA and how it came
Right.
about. When Indian seafarers started going on non-Indian flag vessels, at that time, many of the owners and ship managers who were outside had representatives in India.
Right.
But there was no cohesive body
Right.
that could look at the big picture. Everybody was looking at individual, sort of benefits. In 1989, a group of people came together and formed what is today's FOSMA,
Right.
which actually stands for Foreign Owners Representatives and Ship Managers Association.
Right.
Now, the body was formed basically at that time to look at the interests of their principals who were actually outside of India,
Right.
but employing Indian seafarers.
Sure.
That was what the origination was.
Right.
Over the years, the body has evolved
Yes.
where the owners themselves have set up very strong bases in India,
Right.
and these are all the companies. We are an association of over 30 companies,
Right.
and all these companies are headed by senior people in the maritime industry who have got most of them have got seagoing experience
Right.
and also shore experience,
Right.
but who are also experts in several fields
Right.
of legislation,
Right.
of maritime law, of MLC
Right.
compliance and things like this. Today's FOSMA
Right.
encompasses a much larger role.
Right.
We look at the interests, obviously, of our own foreign owners and representatives,
Sure.
but primarily we look at the interest of the seafarer also,
Right.
in terms of what are the examination, the regulations, the ease of facilitating seafarers'
Right.
immigration, their visas,
Okay.
things with the government, anything that evolves
Right.
around the maritime industry,
Right.
especially as far as seafarers and owners are concerned,
Right.
because India is a very important
Right. Right.
manning,
Right.
thing. So that was the origin of FOSMA.
Okay. So you are actually head of volumes also, and you are heading FOSMA also.
The reason for that is that all of these bodies
Right.
who are within FOSMA,
Right.
they put up representation, and we have a board of directors of
Right.
FOSMA,
Right.
and this board constitutes the people who represent these companies.
Right.
The board then elects a chairman.
Right.
So I have been elected chairman
Right.
as of the board of directors,
Right.
and that is my current
That's
position.
right. So how long you've been in this position?
This is my actually third stint as chairman of the board.
Oh, that's amazing.
I was chairman in 2006 to 8,
Okay.
and then again I was elected some years ago.
Right.
And then for whatever reason, for continuity purpose, after my second term, I have been elected to a
Right.
third term also
Right.
now.
So could you tell us what is the vision of FOSMA? Like now it's already been existing for so long. So how do you look forward? What is your vision for the coming years, and what do you expect out of FOSMA?
I think primarily.
Well, would you like to tell to our viewers?
Sure. Primarily, if I have to take one solid item on the purpose of FOSMA, I would say it is to have a healthy safeguard of the interest of both the ship owners and the people that employ our Indian seafarers, and the interest of the Indian seafarer himself.
Right.
Be it in terms of welfare, be it in terms of his skilling, be in terms of the legislative process that makes the Indian seafarer as a wanted product in the international market. We want to uplift the seafarer so that the benefit is gained both by the people that employ him, as well as the employee's contribution to the interest of the ship owner and the ship manager.
So that serves as an objective also for what you are working towards.
That is correct.
And so how has been the journey so far? Has it been quite smooth, or there are so many new things coming up where the seafarers are looking forward to some problems encountered, and how is FOSMA able to resolve that?
Well, to give you a recent example, it's common knowledge that there was the issue about the income tax rulings,
right,
which then did not favor the Indian seafarer in terms of his liability under the NRI guidelines and rules. And FOSMA, along with the unions, the MUI and NUSI, and a lot of contribution to them, also along with some of our deep friends within the Indian, the government itself, were able to come together, and we were able to make a representation to the government and get this anomaly corrected, with the result that that benefit has now gone to us seafarers.
Yes, it was quite appreciated,
right,
because it was a major...
it was a matter of deep
issue.
concern to us seafarers. Yes. But what we have to think is that it wasn't just of a concern to the seafarers. This would have sort of affected the employment of the Indian seafarers, right, with the foreign owners.
Sure.
So the foreign owners lose a valuable resource. After all, you know that Indian seafarers are perhaps amongst the highest rated seafarers in the world today.
Right.
And the owners lose this valuable resource.
Yes.
The resource loses employability. Yes. So it's a cycle, yes, and a circle, yes, which we have been able to address very well.
Right.
So that is only one aspect of it.
Right.
FOSMA is also deeply involved in sending representation to IMO, right, in advisory capacity.
Okay.
Our Director Training, Captain Mahesh Yadav, and many of our members, right, are actually, have represented the country, right, in IMO, in ILO, in various bodies around, sure, the world in an advisory capacity. Why? Because we have the domain right, experience and the domain knowledge.
Sure.
We have been with the Admiralty Bill, we have been involved.
Okay.
We have been asked to sort of give our views to the parliamentary committee, right, when the shipping bill was being enacted. Okay. So we are involved in all these, right, spheres.
Right.
I think one of the biggest areas now in recent past where we have been able to do things for the seafarers is the establishment of world-class training institutes.
Okay.
The first one of which, of course, we've been training people for many, right, many years, right, but we were able to establish a very, very state-of-the-art institute in Delhi, okay, which has been around nearly for 7 years now.
Right. And
this year, yes, we inaugurated our newest institute, okay, in Kolkata.
Oh, very nice.
And I'm very pleased to say it was inaugurated by the Director General of Shipping.
Yes.
We had international dignitaries from the ITF, from IMEC, from
right,
IMAJ, right, who all came down.
Right. And
the comments are on record, but they have rated it to be amongst the finest institutes that is there on an international level, right, right, around the world. Okay. In fact, the DG, when she inaugurated the institute, she said that FOSMA, with this institute, has raised the bar, right, so high in, right, India, right, that it's going to be difficult for, okay, people now to, right, do anything less than, yes, what is required, yes, over there.
That is amazing.
So we are very, very proud of this. And at the end of the day, the beneficiary is the Indian seafarer.
Yes.
And because the Indian seafarer, he is benefiting and he is skilling himself to offer more to the owner in terms of the training that he receives over here, the owner benefits, because who pays the seafarer's salary check?
Yes.
It's the owner. So if you can see that, right, this is a cycle, yes, which, because you have benefit on both sides, yes, yes, it becomes
it's
fantastic.
A win-win situation.
It's a win for everybody. Right. And we are only the facilitator, right, to make this happen.
Of course.
Because there is all the companies are personally, right, involved, right, right, and we have a personal gain, right, but the big gain, yes, is for the nation and for the seafarers of this nation.
That's amazing. Yeah. So you have such a wonderful background. I mean, to reach this position of the head of FOSMA and head of Volunteer. Could you talk about yourself? How's been your journey so far, and what is your background?
I am just a humble seafarer.
Right.
The one thing I will never do is forget my roots.
Right.
I remember my first day on the Dufferin. It started off with actually being given the very, very responsible task of going and cleaning the toilets. From that day onwards, it's been a very, very nice journey.
So how many years in the shipping industry?
I am from the 1970-72 batch of the Dufferin. So when you consider that I started off in 70, yes, it is today 47 years that have gone by. Yes. People ask me, which is the best time? And I say it's tomorrow, because when you enjoy doing something, it's not a task anymore.
Of course.
It's just a work.
Yes.
My biggest thing is of what I've been able to give back into the industry.
Right.
The industry has given me so much.
Yes,
it's
yes.
time, it's payback time,
Back, yes.
and that's what my motive
right.
is.
Of course, your valuable experience, which you can share with people.
Absolutely. I've only ever worked in 2 companies.
Right.
I joined straight after Dufferin. I joined Jayanti Shipping, and we got taken over by SCI.
Okay.
Tremendous amount of learning in SCI. I give full credit there, because that was the foundation was laid. And then in 1978, I joined Wallam. I've been 40 years in Wallam.
Oh, that's
and it's been an amazing journey.
Sure.
Every day has been enjoyable.
Of course.
And I think the experience that I've learned and and gained is something that I'm able to give back to our seafarers and to the industry at large. So I'm actually honored to be in this position as chairman of FOSMA and also as chairman of Wallam India. I think the 2 positions sort of synergize with each other in doing the best for the industry.
Yes. So you were talking about these institutes which you were saying at Delhi 7 years back and now in Kolkata. You have any more plans for regarding institutes or other trainings or something else for the seafarers in the coming years?
You see, these are big major investments that we do.
Okay.
We don't want to overextend ourselves where we try to do too much too soon and then fail on other counts. We want to be the best that we are in whatever we are doing, and there is enough. There are other resources available in other people. It's no use trying to duplicate so many things. So whatever we do, we want to do it slowly but surely, and we want to offer world-class facility, both in the actual doing as well as visible to the external people who come here.
So FOSMA, coming back to FOSMA, how does, we are talking about the training part.
Right.
How about other issues, like you said about the income tax? And
right.
All? Are there many issues which are coming up and
which have been coming up?
Right.
You know that we had some years ago when the piracy issue was so strong.
Right.
We were able to, as FOSMA and together with the rest of the industry, we were able to reach the highest powers in the government with benefit from the people who are in the administration here, who were in the government there.
Yes.
We were able to seek release of so many of our people.
Sure.
Then when the criminalization of seafarers was taking place, FOSMA was instrumental in actually invoking the government into finding ways and means on how to overcome that. We were successful over there. In terms of the shipping bill, in terms of the RPSL rules, in terms of the guarantees, in terms of welfare for the seafarers, we have been able to do a lot of contribution.
So how has been your integration with the government? It's been quite
very good, very good.
Okay.
There are always points of disagreement. There are I think the points of agreement far outweigh the points of disagreement. And it is not so much as a disagreement as a different point of view on things.
Sure.
But basically, we work tremendously sort of closely with the government. In my capacity as chairman, I am on the representative advisory board of the Indian Maritime University. I'm on the board of, or the chairman's ex officio is on the board of the Indian Seafarers Welfare Committee. We are on the boards of the SWFS, on the Maritime Employment Board of India. So at every stage, we are integrating and working with the administration to bring about whatever good there is for Indian maritime industry at large.
That's wonderful.
So it's a very good relationship.
Yes. So coming in the umbrella of FOSMA and all that, one of the things which our seafarers would like to know, that always comes up, is about employment, and the second thing is the salaries.
Sure.
So if you can please inform our seafarers, like how does FOSMA look after the...
My advice to the Indian seafarer is skill yourself. Be the best whatever you do. Everybody can't climb Mount Everest. Everybody can't, run a mile in less than 10 seconds. But everybody can do their best. And I think positive attitude, doing your best, that itself will endear you to the person at the other end for whom we are serving, and that is the ship owner. I think if you may sort of flaw a little bit in your expertise, but if you have the right attitude, if you say, yes, I can, there will be no dearth of employment for Indian seafarers, because You have the advantage of being tutored in English, which is an international language. You have, we are God-fearing, we are disciplined seafarers, we come from good backgrounds, we have fantastic training. All of these opportunities allow us to actually be the nation of choice for employment, especially in the seafaring, in shipping itself. And that opens out the vista into the entire maritime field. Pilots, superintendents, shipyards, everywhere. You'll see today Indians are sitting at positions of influence and power all around the world. And that is because it is the output that we give.
Sure.
To the younger lot, my advice is emulate your seniors. Learn the best that you can from them. Go forth into this world. You're ambassadors of this country. You're ambassadors of your profession. And just give it your all. It will not fail. There will never be a dearth of employment for you. As far as salaries are concerned, if I tell you what I was getting when I was a master, which is, 20 years ago, it is the equivalent or less than what second mate is getting now.
Right.
But we learned, we lived, we managed with what we had. Salaries went up tremendously in the last 10 years because there was a huge shortage of seafarers. Today that shortage is being corrected to a certain extent, and then also the salaries are being corrected to a certain extent. We must realize that it isn't only Indians who produce good seafarers. There are so many other nations that produce good seafarers. So we have to have a competitive wage scale which allows us to be both in terms of skill and in terms of the employability, which allows us to have that advantage.
So are we now in the competitive market? Is our wages now fine? I mean, is it any more room for any correction or going up, or it's fine now presently?
The markets will decide that. As far as what is correct right now is good.
Okay.
What was correct 3 years ago was good. What was correct 20 years ago was good. It is for that particular era and for that particular moment that everything is right. If we pay too high wages, we will have a whole lot of seafarers, but no ships. If we pay too low wages, we'll have a whole lot of ships, but no seafarers. You understand? So we have to. It is our responsibility as the people who are running larger organizations to find that fine balance between giving, what we say, cost-effective employment, so that the seafarer is always in demand, and yet the value that he's giving to a ship owner's vessel makes it conducive for the ship owner also to make a profit at the end of the day. So when you bring the two together, I think you have a very good combination.
So how's the job scenario? Like very nice insight you gave about the salaries. But do you find there are so many, I think, people who are still waiting to get a job, and how's the job scenario? Are people losing jobs, or is it difficult to get some jobs?
No, I don't think people are losing jobs. The number of jobs are increasing. But also the number of people coming into the market in terms of with qualifications are also increasing. And
so is there an oversupply?
I would say oversupply. I think that there is an adequacy of supply now. In the engineer side, there is perhaps a long waiting period. But the reason for that is that with the automation of ships, the position of fourth engineer has been eliminated. So earlier we used to have chief, second, third, fourth, fifth, and several fifth engineers. Now you've got fifth engineer, there is no fourth engineer. Then you straight away go into third engineer. So then if you see 1/4 of the capacity on board has come down. But the number of entrants is the same. And this is something that the market will have to regulate. I cannot, as a ship manager, I cannot say, don't go into shipping. Go into shipping, decide and see. And you show me one good performer or one person who's got a good attitude and good skills who's lying by the wayside. None. You can't find them. Because if you have good attitude, if you have good skills, and if you are a sort of value-added proposition for the ship owner, you will always have a job, and that is my assurance to you.
Coming back to your job thing, one of the feeling is that there is, like you said, adequate employment and all. But is it happening that the people who are coming in are adequate, but the jobs are being given to some other countries? I mean, not as a ship owner, but do you realize that many times the people are waiting time is longer because
Yes.
some other countries are employing the same ship owners taken from other countries?
Let me take my Indian hat off for a moment,
Right.
and let me put my international hat on.
Right.
I represent a company which is multinational.
Right.
Employees, we are colorblind as far as your color of your passport, color of your eyes, your nationality is concerned completely.
Right.
Wallam is an equal opportunity employer.
Right.
We have got bases in India,
Right.
in all over the Indian subcontinent, in Philippines, in China, Russia, Ukraine,
Right.
everywhere.
Right.
When I look at my Indian hat, I have to look at this picture.
Yes.
When I look at the global hat,
Right.
when I put on my global hat, I have to look at the big picture.
Right.
And there are equally good seafarers
Yes.
who are available everywhere else in the world.
Yes.
Now we as the local representatives
Right.
have to make sure
Yes.
that the value
Yes.
that we afford from our Indian seafarers
Right.
is higher in value than everybody else.
Of course.
And so long as we are able to maintain this,
Right.
there will be jobs. I don't think that the number of jobs is being reduced.
Right.
As I said, the number of jobs, the
Yes.
actual quantum
Yes.
is increasing.
Right.
But because the inflow has also increased
Right.
at a greater pace than the number of jobs increase,
Right.
therefore we are finding
Oversupply.
some oversupply.
That is correct.
That is right.
So it's a very important message to Indian seafarers
Yes.
that if they can prove themselves they are worthy,
Absolutely.
then of course the ship owners will decide to take from India and
Right.
why to make a choice from another country or
Right.
something.
Right.
So coming back to is FOSMA doing something for the families or the families associated?
Very much so. FOSMA is a big contributor into, through our owners,
Right.
into several welfare funds
Okay.
that are run by the unions.
Right.
There is the Maritime Floating Staff Welfare Trust, and there is also the NUSI Trust.
Right.
And these trusts look at the welfare
Right.
of Indian seafarers,
Right.
for their families, etc.
Right.
And FOSMA's representatives
Right.
are sitting on these trusts
Okay.
to ensure
Sure.
that there is a fair payout
Yes.
for the needy people,
Yes.
so that when you're not covered, let's say, by your P&I on board,
Right.
then your families who are sitting over here,
Sure.
they have a cover.
Right.
MUI is doing a fantastic job on that.
Right.
NUSI is doing a fantastic job on that.
Right.
And I think that, the reason is because the leadership in NUSI, the leadership in MUI
Right.
is very strong and actually they feel the need to do things
Sure.
for the seafarers, not just for the namesake,
Correct.
but actual
They're actually
intent.
implementing. There are so many.
And
projects.
that is why we as FOSMA also
Right.
fully support them.
Right.
I think if you look at the history
Yes.
of the relationship
Yes.
that's existed between the unions, between the employers and the seafarers,
Right.
you will find in the foreign flag, in the
Right.
overseas flags, non-Indian flags,
Right.
there hasn't been a single case of industrial strife in the
Right.
last 40 years.
That is correct.
It's an amazing thing. I think
Yes.
one of the unique industries in the world
Yes.
where we have not seen any form of, we have our disagreements.
That is correct.
We have our, when we negotiate, one of the things that FOSMA does is
Right.
we represent, on the negotiation tables
Right.
for Indian seafarers,
Right.
on the IBF, on this thing. In fact, our FOSMA member,
Right.
he is the chairman of IMAC.
Oh.
And it's a very proud thing for India,
yes.
that an Indian is heading that body.
Yes.
I am very honored to be also on the board of IMAC,
Right.
where we represent Indian seafarers and our ship owners
Sure.
in negotiating wage scales and things like
Right,
this.
right.
So there's a lot of input that's going on in
Sure.
terms of the welfare. And these with the union and with IMAC,
Right.
we are creating these welfare funds
Right.
so that eventually all global seafarers,
Right.
they can benefit from these funds.
That's wonderful. We now have an idea about when you spoke about the wages and the job scenario. What about the living conditions? I mean, on the FOSMA vessels and all, is there something for the welfare? I mean, related to the welfare of the crew. So, does it come up in the discussion and in the meetings that how the welfare of the crew can be integrated and can be approved, brought up or something?
Well, as a body,
Right.
FOSMA has little control on what individual companies do as far as the seafarers are concerned. But I can tell you that FOSMA is represented, within FOSMA, the representation
Yes.
is from the largest companies in the world,
Right.
who, in their individual right,
Right.
are such good employers.
Right.
I can only tell you for myself,
Right.
as far as Wallam is concerned, we have, even though it's not required,
Yes.
we have, accident cover for our seafarers
Right.
when they get off the ship.
Right.
That means we, you know, in times gone by, there was a seafarer who came off the ship, and after 5 days, if he got, you know, injured or if he died, there was no cover.
Right.
So we realized that there is a gap here.
Yes.
So we've taken on this cover.
The medical benefits.
We have free, you know, hostel facilities or, you know, guest house facilities for our ratings.
Oh.
So that when they come to Mumbai, they have a place to go, a clean place.
Yes.
We have training facilities.
Yes.
We have support groups where the wives of the seafarers, they come together and they have a group, which is the Women of Wallam.
Okay.
You know, so there are many companies who have got these individual, you know, welfare programs for their seafarers and their families. And I can only encourage and tell them that this is not just, it's not just something for the sake of
namesake. They have to
namesake.
use all these benefits.
It is good for the community, you know. And we have got, Wallam has set up, you know, facilitation centers around the country. And those are open not just to Wallam seafarers. They're open to any seafarer and his family to go there and seek for assistance or help.
Wonderful. Thank you for your feedback. I wanted to know, when you're talking about FOSMA, which is doing so many activities and all, and like we are now, you are saying on camera about all these activities. How does a normal seafarer come to know what is available and all these things which you spoke about? Do you have a website or something where they can go and see all the activities which are offered and all that, and what are the new things coming up from FOSMA?
Yes, FOSMA has got a very active website, you know, if you go there, you will get a list of the items that FOSMA is doing, on what advantages FOSMA offers as an association of our close cooperation with the unions. The management of the welfare funds is done by a combination of FOSMA representatives, MASA representatives, and the unions. So the details of that are also available on the unions this thing. We encourage our members to be associated to derive full benefit from these things, from the unions. And I must say that many, I would say almost all of our seafarers, voluntarily they go and become members of the union to derive these benefits.
That is correct.
Yes.
So to be in the board of directors and all, these are all qualified individuals heading some organization or the other, right?
Yes.
And do you have something below the board of directors or something, and or that is where all the...
We have a secretariat for FOSMA who are not from member companies, but who have been employed, like Captain Mahesh Yadav. He is one of the you know, biggest authorities on the STCW, on legislation and things. He is the director training for FOSMA. He works so closely with IMO, with ILO, with the Indian government for enacting legislation, for enacting, you know, for this syllabus of the courses and things like this. So all of these activities are taking place.
Fine. So coming back to just before we leave, I wanted you to tell our seafarers that in a nutshell, that what do you expect from them, and what are you doing for them, and what are you expecting from them?
All right. For the Indian seafarer, let me see, what I do for you is not in my personal capacity, is in the capacity of the company, and it is in the capacity of a responsible leader in the industry with my colleagues in FOSMA. We will do whatever is necessary to ensure your well-being, your welfare, and that you remain a desired product in the world employment market. What the nation expects of you, what the industry expects of you is skill yourself well, offer value, do your best, make this into something, make your profession into something that you want to do rather than you have to do, and be proud of your profession, be an ambassador of this nation, be an ambassador of the maritime world, and you will always be successful.
Oh, that's a wonderful message.
Thank you.
I think seafarers will be proud to hear that. Thank you, Captain Passey, to be with us. Thank you for your valuable time.
Thank you.
And I believe that this message will go a long way for the seafarers. And people will look forward, and especially for the youngsters who are joining out at sea.
Thank you.
And they have a long way to go.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for being on Sea.
Most welcome. And I want to thank you also on camera for actually the good work that you have done and the initiatives that you're taking to convey these things to the seafarers.
Sure. Thank you very much. We are very proud of it.
Wish you every success.
Thank you very much.